In today's video, I'm going to utterly convince you that everything you thought you knew about traffic generation online is completely wrong. You believed many lies, and I'm going to give you a masterclass right here on how to read and understand your numbers in your business to make sure that you are the most profitable and successful you could possibly be. So let's start at the top. You launch your business, you've launched a course, you've launched a website or a sales funnel. Now the next question is traffic. We need to find people on the internet, somewhere, somehow, that would be interested in what we've got and ultimately make a purchase. Our default position seems to be to go out on the hunt for cheap traffic. We don't want to overpay. We don't want to spend too much. We get nervous about a high price for paid advertising campaigns and things of that nature. So we go looking and searching for the cheapest traffic possible. And marketers and gurus online know this about you and us, so they capitalize on it. They create their own courses and their own training programs talking about this traffic loophole that they found where you can get clicks for as cheap as a penny. Or I found a secret traffic strategy where you can get the cheapest traffic available online, and we get sucked into it because the message is really attractive. However, that is the complete wrong way to go about your traffic generation efforts. Typically, there are two things running alongside each other, and that is cost of traffic and quality of traffic. The cheaper the traffic you acquire, most likely the lower quality that traffic is. So the thing that we don't realize, we get excited about cheap traffic, but then we wonder why that traffic's not converting into leads, high quality appointments perhaps on our calendar, and ultimately turning into customers and clients. But we still then persist to try to find more cheap traffic because we think that's the answer, not picking up on the clues that that traffic is of low quality, and that is why they're not buying anything. However, if we go out there with the intention of finding quality traffic, irrespective of price, we're going to find that the numbers work out better in the end anyway. So that's the first thing that we need to know. We're going after quality traffic, not the cheapest traffic, but we're just scratching the surface. We're going to go down the rabbit hole now because there's layers to this. The pursuit of cheap traffic for your business always ends at a dead end anyway. Because firstly, you'll find it very hard to acquire any anyway, and I'm going to explain why in just a second. And if you do somehow find a magic bullet to get a quick bit of cheap traffic, chances are it's not a lasting strategy. So next month you're back to square one trying to find a strategy to use again. So I've already told you why we probably don't want cheap traffic because of the quality, but here's why you'll probably have a hard time finding cheap traffic anyway. Let's just look at paid ad platforms as an example. YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Google, you name it. If there's a platform where we can go and pay for an ad to be displayed on the network in hopes that we can generate some of that traffic, the way that is designed is it's designed similar to an auction. There are lots of other businesses just like yours. Many of them are bigger businesses than you, and every advertiser, you included, is competing to generate that traffic. Let's imagine there are 10 advertisers and there is only space on that particular platform with the targeting that's been selected for 8 people. So how is YouTube, for example, going to determine which of the 10 people that want to give them some money to advertise to that audience, how do they select the 8 that are successful? Price. Who's willing to pay the most for the traffic? So YouTube's going to look at the budget of those 10 advertisers, the amount that they're willing to spend, the cost per click that they're willing to pay, and they're going to award the traffic to the 8 people that are willing to pay the most. And the 2 at the end are not going to get any traffic, they're not going to get any impressions, they're not going to get any clicks, and they're going to wonder why. So then those bottom 2 advertisers go and set up another ad campaign on another ad platform to another audience, and they are back in the mix with other people, and because they are hunting for the cheapest traffic, they are going to lose again. And you can see how this makes sense even in the real world. Imagine you go to an auction house and you sit there in a crowd of 100 people, and there's item after item after item coming up, being presented from the front, and everyone in the room is bidding on that item. If you were the first one to bid because you wanted to get some cheap items, so you are put the first bid in, and someone else bids and someone else bids, and the cost gets a little bit higher and you're not willing to bid again because you wanted the cheapest price possible, well, that item's going to sell to someone other than You. Next item comes up. Same story. You put your first bid in of £1 and that particular item goes up and sells for £100, you lose again. So as the day goes on in that auction house, you keep putting up your little ticket saying you want to bid, but you keep getting outbid and someone else walks out with that particular item. You lost all day. So it's the exact same thing on these ad platforms. So what's the solution? We need to be willing to pay more for traffic. We've got to detach ourselves from this desire to get cheap traffic, and instead we need to go in the pursuit of quality traffic, and we have to just make sure that the numbers are working in our business. So how do we work this out? What number do we decide to go with from the start? Well, the reality is we need to drive a bit of traffic, perhaps even overpaying in the beginning, just so we can at least get some numbers through our sales funnel, through our business, and we can reverse engineer our numbers and work out now how much we are willing to pay for traffic moving forward and remain profitable. What I'm about to tell you right now is so important. Listen carefully and write this down in a notebook. So I'm going to walk you through some of the numbers that I experience in my company so that you can learn from those numbers and it will give you a bit of a benchmark. In my business, we run a lot of ads on YouTube. We point those ads to a webinar funnel. Those webinars get us calls booked, and those calls obviously turn into conversations where someone may or may not become a client. So let's look at some of the math. If we generate 1,000 clicks from an ad campaign into our webinar registration page, we would expect a 25% opt-in rate. That would give us 250 leads from 1,000 clicks. Of those 250 leads, we would expect a 10% conversion rate to booking a call. So 250 leads becomes 25 calls. Some of those call bookings are not going to be good quality. They're not going to be good conversations. We'll probably have to cancel them. So 25 good calls turns out to be about 15 good prospects. Of those 15 calls, we would expect to close 4 clients. And let's just say, for argument's sake, those 4 clients are worth $5,000 each as a client. So 1,000 clicks has turned into $20,000 in revenue. So what do we do with these numbers? How does that help us determine how much we can afford to pay on traffic? Well, there's one key metric that we are looking for, and that is value per click. VP. Value per click. No, that is right. VPC. Value per click. I almost forgot the acronym. If we can work out what a click is valued at for our business, then we can pin that against the cost per click that we're spending on an ad platform, and we just have to make sure that the value per click is more than the cost per click. If that's the case, the business is profitable, assuming other hard costs in the business don't, of course, bring that down even further. But let's just use the simple equation for now. So $20,000 in revenue divided by 1,000 clicks gives us a $20 value per click. That means we can afford to pay up to $20 per click on average and remain profitable. So that's the number we're going to work with. So when we're out here trying to find the cheapest traffic possible, I'm trying to find clicks for a penny or 1 cent or 10 cents, and we're not getting anywhere with it anyway, what we can actually be doing is looking at ad campaigns and traffic platforms where perhaps the cost per click is $2, $3. We might go, gosh, that's so expensive. I'm spending $2 or $3 for a click. No, I'm not going there. That sounds too expensive. Why would we make a business decision? Why would we make a marketing decision on, I think that sounds too expensive? Why would we just not let the numbers tell us what's good or what's bad? Because if we can spend $2 on a click, but the value per click is $20, we are 10 timesing our money. I would rather spend more on traffic and have a business at 10x than always on the hunt for cheap traffic and never getting anywhere. I'm sure that you would agree. This also points us to the fact that in this auction, with other people we're competing against, in that list of 10 advertisers, we not only want to be in the 8, we want to be in the number 1, 2, or 3 position. If we're in number 1, 2, or 3 and an ad platform is favoring us, they're going to favor us because we're the ones at the very top willing to pay the most. I can't remember who first said it, but there's a famous quote, he or she that is willing to pay the most to acquire a customer wins. And that person wins because we can eat up all the traffic in that market. We can essentially buy our way to the very top of the leaderboard. So let's say the average cost per click is $2 to $3. Maybe we say, you know what? I'm happy to spend $5, $6, $7 a click. No other advertiser is willing to pay that at the moment. I'm gonna pay it because I know I'm still profitable on that. And in the long term, I'm gonna win and the company is going to grow. So what's the moral of the story here? Because there's three. Number one, stop hunting for cheap traffic. Number two, focus on quality of traffic over the price. And number three, you must make sure that you understand the numbers in your business and make sure that you are tightening every bolt in your sales funnel and in your conversion process to make sure that you are as profitable as you can be on your traffic efforts, because the more profitable you are, the more revenue you're producing, the more that's going to allow you to spend more on traffic to beat your competition and grow the business as a whole. So here's the next part of your training. If you need to learn how to have a more profitable funnel so that you can afford to spend more on traffic, then there's a video around here that will teach you about webinar funnels. They are so friggin' powerful and you should learn about them. And if you want to learn more about the traffic side of things and getting high quality traffic in, I've got another video on here about YouTube ads and they work insanely well. So click on one of those videos. I look forward to seeing you over there and I look forward to seeing you in a future video as well.